Welcome back to the S&T podcast. We got a fun one in the Big Ten, Battle of the Birds, the Oregon Ducks and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Hawkeyes get the home game this week, which I think they need if they are going to have a chance against Oregon. But without further ado, I will let my boy Say take over and give us a little intro on what he thinks.
The Battle of the Birds. I like how you put that, Tom. Yes, we have a very exciting Big Ten showdown this weekend. The Iowa Hawkeyes, a quiet 6-2 on the season. Not many people talking about them down there in Iowa City, Iowa. Quietly have won games each and every week and have gotten to this very decent record. Still alive for not only the Big Ten championship but also the playoff. So Iowa, this is a huge game for them going up against the number. What's Oregon rate? Number 6 in the country right now.
Yeah, 6.
Number 6, Oregon Ducks, who, on the other hand, have also had a somewhat of a quiet season. Other than the Indiana game, Oregon's kind of been out of the headlines for the most part because they've been playing inferior opponents and have been winning most of their games pretty easily. So, haven't had too much to talk about them other than that Indiana showdown where they came up short. Um, since then, they've bounced back. They're back in the top 10 and all that, and they're sitting pretty when it comes to the playoff. The only problem with Oregon is, and me and Tom were talking about it a little bit before we got started here. Oregon kind of has a little bit of a gauntlet left in their schedule. So up to this point, they've been coasting pretty easy. But the next few games, including this one, they have Iowa this week. They have Washington, they have USC, and they have Minnesota. So Oregon has a few of those upset alert type games coming up, and I wouldn't take any of those games lightly if I were them. Minnesota, we've seen them cause teams troubles this year. Iowa this week, they've caused trouble for years on end for teams. Just ask Penn State and Michigan; they know. USC and Washington, they're old Pac-12 rivals. You can't look past them as well because both of those teams are having very good seasons as well. So Oregon is kind of on suspect watch. We're going to see how real they are because the Indiana game, they competed. They didn't lose that game by a lot, but they kind of got not dominated, but Indiana controlled that game kind of from start to finish. And if Oregon plays the way they played against Indiana, against USC or Washington or even Iowa this week, they might be in trouble. So we're going to see. I'm very excited to see how the Big Ten finishes out because right now, as it seems, the Big Ten is going to get in 2 teams into the playoff for sure. Ohio State and Indiana. Those are basically locks at this point. But that third team, I mean, we assume it was Oregon, but Oregon, like I said, we don't know yet. And there's a couple other teams right behind them: Iowa, USC, Washington. Well, Nebraska's not in that race really anymore, but a couple teams behind them that are looking to maybe be that fourth or even that third team take Oregon spot. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Big Ten unfolds this season, and I can't wait to see it. But this matchup right here, I can't lie. I'm kind of leaning towards Iowa. I just think this is one of those games that you go on the road late in the season. You're trying to protect your very good record, and Iowa, they have just as much to play for basically as you do. So this is a huge game, and you're on the road. It's a tough environment, and I think I'm going to take the Hawkeyes, Tom. But what you think about this one?
Well, um, I will agree that Iowa is not to be played with. They're always a solid team. Again, they're kind of always like this. But I think what does make them a little different this year is just the amount of points that they've been able to put up. This does not look like a typical Iowa team, and I know looking back, Iowa fans would agree with me that they're looking back at that Iowa State game and how Iowa State turned out after that. Now, granted, Iowa State was probably playing a little better. They felt more confident, probably felt like they had a better chance. and it's also an in-state rivalry. So it's in college football. Those football games are always basically not a toss-up, but if it starts close and if Iowa can kind of keep you in that field goal game and that one touchdown type of range, then they can hang around, which I think if they do that against Oregon, it might end up being a similar score against Iowa State, like a 16-13, like a 19-14, just a low scoring, good old fashioned Big Ten game, because that's kind of Iowa's game plan is they kind of like to suck you in and just hold you down with them until they just lean on you. They just continuously punch you in the mouth, just jab, 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 and then knockout blow, which usually even then they haven't ever scored this many points as far as I can remember consistently. They would have their one-off games against bad teams, but I mean, we're talking. I like Iowa keeping it close this week. The bettors also agree that it's going to be a close game. They think it's going to be a one-score game. They have it at -6.5 in favor of Oregon. 2:30 in the afternoon game. So it's gonna, all the Iowa fans, they'll have enough time to get loose, have fun, cheer loud, especially which Oregon and Iowa. I mean, I would imagine basically the same temperature. So I don't think Oregon's going to be affected by it being maybe a little chilly in Iowa, which I'm not exactly sure if it is. I didn't care enough to look up what the weather was going to be in Iowa because it's Iowa. So. But I still want to lean towards Oregon. I think kind of like you said, how they're staring down the barrel of a gauntlet here. I mean, if you're an Oregon coach, if you're an Oregon player, you have to know that you can't sleep even 1 week in the Big Ten, and I don't think they will, and especially knowing that if they even want the games, if they even want the games at the end of the season to be I can't think of the word. If they want the last two games
Me-
against USC and Washington to be like, what's the
Meaningful.
word I'm looking for? Meaningful, yes, like more meaningful, like to solidify a spot. They need to take care of Iowa, move on. I have zero worries that they take care of Minnesota next week, but and then USC and Washington. Now those are going to be interesting games. Also, will affect. It also depends on what USC and Washington do to finish off the season because they're both also on the edge. So maybe if USC and Washington let one slip in these next 2-3 weeks, then we might be looking at a kind of a different story. Those teams might not have um, as much drive to try and upset Oregon. But Iowa this week has all the reason to want to upset Oregon. They are on the brink of playoff elimination. It's basically known now that if you have three losses, the only way you can get in is if you pull a Clemson, and somehow the entire rest of your conference is so bad that with three losses you still get into the conference championship and then somehow win. But that's not going to happen in the Big Ten. So I like Oregon. Long story short, but look for Iowa to make it a game. I would agree with that, but still give me Oregon. I'm not denying that this is an upset alert game. Just being on the road, it's not a very close flight, but Oregon has already proved they flew to Penn State and beat Penn State. Now that game was close, and then we kind of saw what happened after that. But I think Oregon is also mostly to blame for Penn State spiraling kind of out of control. So give me Oregon. Going to be a good game. Definitely going to be one that I watch. But long story short, give me Oregon. Any final thoughts over there?